The colossal fraud that is bleeding American taxpayers absolutely dry. The fraud being committed by the Somali population in Minnesota. Have you heard of them? They're lovely people.
Every parent trusts the system that protects their children. Licensed facilities, government oversight, verified staff. But what happens when that trust becomes a weapon? Minneapolis, Minnesota. A building registered as a child care center. 750 enrolled children on state records. $46 million collected in a single year. And at 6:42 a.m. on a cold February morning, federal agents discovered something that would expose the largest child care fraud scheme in American history. Want to know what they found inside? Hit subscribe and I'll show you everything the administration doesn't want you to see. Minneapolis, Minnesota at 6:42 a.m. This story did not begin with suspicion. It began with routine compliance. A joint inspection team from the FBI and the Department of Health and Human Services arrived at a licensed child care facility operated by Nimco Ali Hassan, a coordinator who controlled 5 registered centers across the metro area. According to state databases, her primary location served 758 enrolled children, generating automatic subsidy payments that flowed directly from federal taxpayers into her accounts. The numbers looked legitimate. The paperwork was flawless. The approvals came through without delay. But when agents pushed open the front doors that morning, they found something no one had prepared for. Silence. Complete, undisturbed silence. No children laughing. No staff preparing breakfast. No parents dropping off their kids before work. The building was empty. Completely, deliberately empty. Toys sat untouched on shelves. Their packaging still intact. Kitchen equipment showed no signs of use. Attendance logs recorded full capacity for 14 consecutive months, yet the floors had barely been walked on. Every chair, every table, every crayon box looked like it had been staged for a photograph and then forgotten. One agent described the moment as unsettling in a way that transcended logic. The building had heating, the lights worked, fresh paint covered the walls, but nothing had been lived in, nothing had been used. It was a perfect simulation of a child care center, constructed not to serve children, but to deceive auditors. In the kitchen, investigators found commercial-grade appliances still wrapped in protective plastic. In the bathrooms, soap dispensers were empty. In the classrooms, educational posters hung perfectly straight on the walls. But the desks beneath them had never been sat in. The entire facility was a stage set, built to pass inspections that never came. Then the investigators found the records. Inside a locked office, filing cabinets contained enrollment documents for more than 700 children. But when cross-referenced with birth certificates, social security numbers, and school registrations, a disturbing pattern emerged. The children didn't exist. Not in hospitals, not in schools, not in pediatric clinics. They were ghosts, carefully constructed identities using forged documents, stolen social security numbers, and fabricated parent signatures. Each ghost child generated between $4,800 and $9,200 in monthly subsidies, all of it deposited into accounts controlled by Hassan and her network. In 1 year alone, this single location collected $46 million in taxpayer funds for services that were never provided to children who were never real. If you're shocked by what's been uncovered so far, type "exposed" in the comments and let me show you how deep this operation actually went. But that discovery was only the surface. When federal financial analysts began tracing the money, they uncovered something far more sinister. Behind a false panel in the administrative office, agents found a reinforced safe. Inside were $38 million in bundled cash, meticulously sorted by denomination, and 270 kilograms of narcotics, pre-packaged and labeled with distribution codes linked to a known cartel operating across 3 states. This was not a daycare. It was a money laundering hub designed to convert federal subsidy payments into untraceable cash and funnel it directly into drug trafficking operations. The financial architecture was sophisticated, methodical, and nearly invisible. Subsidy payments entered Hassan's primary account, then dispersed through 43 intermediary accounts within hours. Small transfers, never more than $9,500 to avoid triggering federal reporting thresholds. The funds moved through student aid programs, cultural assistance charities, and rental support organizations, each layer adding legitimacy to the trail. Then the money disappeared offshore, routed through accounts in East Africa, the Middle East, and Southeast Asia. When investigators finally reconstructed the full flow, they discovered that less than 4% of the total funds were tied to any legitimate expense. The rest vanished into a network designed not to hide money, but to clean it. What made the scheme so effective was its exploitation of bureaucratic blind spots. Payments were categorized under dozens of innocuous labels: educational materials, facility maintenance, staff training, nutritional programs. Each claim looked reasonable in isolation, but when aggregated across 5 locations over multiple years, the pattern became impossible to ignore. Hassan's network had perfected the art of staying just below the radar, filing claims that were large enough to generate massive revenue, but small enough to avoid triggering automated fraud detection systems. Over 9 months, more than $400 million moved through a single account tied to this operation. But Hassan was not working alone. As federal teams expanded their investigation, the scope became staggering. Surveillance identified 93 individuals connected to the scheme, including 82 Somali Americans operating across Minnesota. Between 2021 and 2025, the network filed claims totaling $2.8 billion in child care reimbursements, not for care, for fraud. The system had been weaponized, and it had been running at full capacity for years. Comment accountability if you believe the American people deserve to know how this was allowed to happen. Then came the second raid, the one that transformed this from a fraud investigation into something far more dangerous. Federal surveillance units had been monitoring unusual vehicle movements to and from a fortified warehouse complex 40 miles outside Minneapolis. GPS data confirmed that drivers linked to Hassan's network made repeated trips to this location, always late at night, always in unmarked vehicles. Thermal imaging detected activity inside the building during hours when legitimate businesses were closed. Cellular intercepts revealed encrypted communications using phrases that matched known cartel terminology. On March 14th at 3:18 a.m., a coordinated team of FBI and DEA agents moved in. What they encountered was not a storage facility, it was a fortress. Armed guards opened fire from elevated positions. A brief but intense exchange followed. Tactical units breached the perimeter under suppressive fire. 19 suspects were detained, several injured. When agents finally entered the main structure, the scene inside was beyond anything they had anticipated. Industrial-scale drug production equipment filled 3 interconnected rooms. Chemical precursors, mixing stations, packaging lines, all operating at cartel-level efficiency. Agents seized equipment capable of producing massive quantities of fentanyl, cocaine, methamphetamine, and heroin. The operation was not experimental. It was established, refined, and running at full capacity. The facility had been designed with precision. Ventilation systems filtered chemical odors to prevent detection. Backup generators ensured uninterrupted production. Security cameras monitored every entrance. Interior walls were reinforced to delay law enforcement entry. And scattered throughout the workspace were financial ledgers documenting shipment schedules, distribution routes, and payment confirmations that tied directly back to the fraudulent child care accounts. The connection was undeniable. Federal subsidies weren't just being stolen. They were funding an industrial narcotics operation. But the most disturbing discovery came in the lower level. Behind a sealed industrial door, agents found 62 human beings. Men, women, some as young as 16, all detained, all forced into labor. Several match descriptions from missing persons reports filed months earlier across 3 states. Medical teams were immediately deployed. Survivors reported being trafficked into the United States under false promises of work and education, then forced into packaging and transport operations under threat of violence. Some had been held for more than a year. Their documents had been confiscated. Their families had been threatened. They had become invisible, trapped inside a system that depended on their silence. The full picture was now undeniable. Federal child care subsidies were being funneled into a sophisticated criminal enterprise that combined fraud, money laundering, drug production, and human trafficking. The loop was closed. Government funds purchased chemical precursors. The precursors were processed into narcotics. The narcotics generated revenue. The revenue was laundered back through fake child care centers. And the cycle continued, protected by a system built on trust, paperwork, and the assumption that no one would dare exploit programs designed to help vulnerable children. If you support the agents who risk everything to dismantle operations like this, like and share this investigation. But this story is not only about criminals, it's about the system that failed to stop them. Over 1,200 child care license approvals were granted in Minnesota with minimal or no in-person verification. Physical site inspections dropped by 41% statewide, replaced by virtual reviews and document checks that could be easily manipulated. Repeated red flags were ignored. Duplicate child enrollment records, centers claiming capacity far beyond their physical space, facilities operating with insufficient staff or none at all. Analysts flagged these inconsistencies dozens of times. Nothing changed. Speed and compassion were prioritized. Verification was not. In one documented case, a license application listed 14 staff members. When investigators finally visited the site, they found 2 people present, neither of whom matched the names on file. The application had been approved in 72 hours. In another instance, a facility claimed to serve 320 children in a building with a maximum occupancy of 110. The discrepancy was noted in the review, but dismissed as a clerical error. No follow-up was ever conducted. The pattern repeated across the state. Warning signs were documented, filed, and forgotten. The consequences extended far beyond stolen money. When the network collapsed, more than 70,000 low-income children lost access to legitimate childcare. Over 18,000 families received sudden suspension notices, their benefits frozen while investigators sorted through falsified records. Childcare capacity dropped by approximately 22% in some neighborhoods almost overnight. Single parents missed work shifts. Grandparents stepped in to care for children they could no longer physically manage. Families who had relied on these programs for years suddenly faced impossible choices between keeping their jobs or leaving their children unsupervised. Legitimate providers who had operated honestly for decades were forced to close, unable to compete with fraudulent centers that undercut prices using stolen government funds. The total estimated taxpayer loss reached $7.3 billion when accounting for diverted subsidies, enforcement costs, lost productivity, and community harm. But the human cost was incalculable. Trust in institutions designed to support working families had been shattered. And federal analysts now warn this may not be isolated. Similar fraud models have been identified in 14 other states. If replicated at scale, potential national losses could exceed $32 billion annually. The vulnerability is not technological. It's cultural. It's the belief that compassion and verification cannot coexist, that asking for accountability is somehow an attack on those in need. The final briefing was clear. This fraud succeeded not by hacking systems or bypassing security. It succeeded because routine approvals became automatic, because oversight was reduced in the name of efficiency, because institutional fear of scrutiny created an environment where even the most obvious warning signs were dismissed, ignored, or explained away. Nimco Ali Hassan now faces federal charges. The network is dismantled. But one question remains heavier than any statistic. If a scheme this large could operate for years inside a system designed to protect children, how many others are still running undetected, protected not by complexity, but by the simple assumption that no one would dare exploit something meant for good? If you believe oversight and accountability are not acts of cruelty but essential protections for those who need help most, subscribe and share this investigation. The system failed. The truth cannot.